Good afternoon and welcome again to our National Emergency Operations Center COVID-19 Daily Briefing. Thank you very much for joining us for today's briefing. We are all going through very trying times at this time, but with the cooperation of all, we will get through this together. Today we have a number of presenters, after which we will take questions from the media. I would first like to invite Dr. Sherilyn Ward Crawford, who represents the Mental Health and Psychosocial Support Committee within the Ministry of Health. Dr. Crawford, welcome.
Good afternoon. Our children is also experiencing the effects of COVID-19. So today I will talk about providing psychosocial support for our children. Children feel relieved if they can express and communicate their feelings in a safe and supportive environment. Help children find positive ways to express feelings such as fear and sadness. Every child has his or her own way of expressing their emotions. Sometimes engaging in a creative activity such as playing or drawing can facilitate this process. Take time to talk with your child or teen about the COVID-19 outbreak. Answer questions and share facts about COVID-19 in a way that your child or teen can understand. Reassure your child or teen that they are safe. Let them know that it is okay if they feel upset. Share with them how you deal with your own stress so they can learn how to cope from you. For example, you can say, when I feel upset, I listen to music and I watch things that make me laugh on television, and this makes me feel better. Keep children close to their parents and family if considered safe, and avoid separating children and their carers as much as possible. If a child needs to be separated from his or her primary carer, ensure that appropriate alternative care is provided and that a social worker or equivalent will regularly follow up on the child. Further, ensure that during periods of separation, regular contact with parents and carers is maintained, such as twice daily scheduled telephone or video calls or other age-appropriate communication, example, using social media. It is important to maintain familiar routines in daily life as much as possible, or create new routines, especially since children must stay at home. Create a schedule with the help of your child if possible, and that schedule should have in time slots for learning activities and relaxing or fun activities. Although we are dealing with an abnormal situation, we would like parents and carers to maintain a level of normalcy in their homes. So if a child is not accustomed to stay in their pajama all day, don't start now. Get them out of their pajamas when they wake up at mornings and continue with the activities that you have scheduled for that day. During times of stress and crisis, it is common for children to seek more attachment and to be more demanding on parents. Discuss COVID-19 with your children in an honest and age-appropriate way. If your child have concerns, addressing them together may ease their anxiety. Limit your children's exposure to news coverage of COVID-19, including social media. Children may misinterpret what they hear and can be frightened about something that they do not understand. Children will observe adults' behaviors and emotions for cues on how to manage their own emotions during difficult times. Be a role model. Take breaks. Get plenty of sleep at night. Exercise within your home and eat healthily. Connect with your friends and family members via telephone or social media. Children react in part on what they see from the adults around them. Let us all go forward dealing with this crisis calmly and confidently.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford. Of course, we know we need a lot of advice to get through these days, especially mental advice. It's a trying time. We invite now Superintendent Cromwell Henry, Divisional Commander of District A, to speak to us.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and pleasant good afternoon to everyone who are listening to this broadcast via the internet or otherwise. This afternoon, I'm here speaking on behalf of the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force and the security forces in general. We continue our security operations to ensure that the curfew is enforced and all the other regulations under the emergency powers regulation. To date, we are satisfied with the cooperation we are getting from the public in terms of their adhering to the terms of the curfew. Persons are applying, those persons who need to be out, they are applying to the commissioner for the necessary permissions, and those who are permitted to be out under the regulations are being out in compliance with what the regulation provides. That is, having or wearing the uniform of the organization or having identification of the organization that they represent. So far, we've had 26 arrests. Over the last 24 hours, we've had 3. That means that we are getting maximum cooperation. We continue to urge that cooperation in terms of the curfew. We are still seeing pockets of persons congregating under the trees in certain communities. Lagreed, for one, readily comes to mind. Persons are still congregating in these areas in the public and sort of socializing in very close proximity. This is dangerous to your own health in that it brings you within the distance that you are to be, and so exposes you to the virus. We do not know who has the virus, and so the social distance of 6 feet is advised to maintain that distance so that it reduces your risk of contracting the virus from another person. We ask persons to adhere to this distance. It is not something that we just impose upon you because we want to punish you. It is recommended for your own health, for your own safety. We ask you to adhere to it. I'm still getting questions about the liquor license that is causing quite a stir. Again, I repeat, all retail liquor licenses are suspended. That is, premises that are licensed to sell liquor by retail, bars, rum shops, etc. Those premises where the liquor is poured into glass, those are the licenses that are suspended. You can continue to purchase your liquor from supermarkets and from other wholesale license vendors. All retail licenses are suspended. Today, Sunday, and everyone, I suppose, are having their usual Sunday afternoon relaxation. It cannot be as you're accustomed to. Most persons go to the beach on Sundays. That is prohibited under the new regulations. I want to make that clear, make that distinction. Going to the beach, going exercising, those are prohibited. Persons are not permitted to be outside at all for any reason, except for emergency purposes, or if you have permission from the Commissioner of Police. I want to thank you again for your cooperation and ask for your continued cooperation as we go through this trying period. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Henry. Today begins Holy Week, which is, we begin today with Palm Sunday. It is the holiest week in terms of Christendom, and of course people turn to the church and they turn to God for prayer and guidance and so on at this time. And it is a very trying time because it's a time when a lot of people from churches and so on come together in worship. But at this time, it is not possible. So they are doing it through technology. I now invite the Chief Medical Officer for St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Hazel Laws, to address us.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and good afternoon to everyone. As of Sunday, the 5th of April 2020, at 3 p.m., the World Health Organization reports 1,133,758 confirmed cases of COVID-19 globally, with 62,784 deaths. Today, St. Kitts and Nevis reports 10 confirmed cases of COVID-19 with 0 deaths. To date, 183 persons have been tested with 10 confirmed positive, 114 confirmed negative, and 59 results pending. There are currently 34 persons quarantined in a government facility, while 215 persons are quarantined at home. 10 persons are in isolation. To date, 249 persons have been released from quarantine. In essence, we have 10 confirmed cases. 8 of these cases are imported cases, and 2 of these cases appear to be import-related, and they are under investigation. 1 had indirect contact with someone in quarantine who returned from an area with COVID-19 outbreak, and the other had direct and close contact with tourists from the United States of America. For completion, I want to share the definition of local transmission. Local transmission is the term that is used to describe when the virus is transmitted between 2 or more persons who have not left the community, the local community or the federation in our case. It means that the virus is passing between persons locally who have not traveled themselves and who have not had direct contact with a person who traveled back from a destination with an outbreak. In other words, the source of the infection is within the federation. And so this term cannot be used to describe our situation at present. And this is based on the information we have to date. Community transmission, based on the World Health Organization, is the term used to describe the period in an outbreak with increasing large numbers. It is evidenced by the inability to relate confirmed cases through chains of transmission for a large number of cases, or by increasing number of positive tests through routine testing from our laboratories. Again, this term cannot be used to describe the outbreak as we see it on the ground at present. Of the 10 confirmed cases, 7 are symptom-free and recovering. 1 has mild symptoms and continue to improve. The other 2 are hospitalized in Nevis but stable. The Ministry of Health's strategy at this time is to reduce the intensity of the outbreak and to slow down the increase in the number of cases as much as possible. We intend to achieve this through early identification of cases. The cases will be isolated and appropriately managed. We also intend to continue aggressive contact tracing. The contacts will be automatically placed into quarantine, and along with the social distancing measures we have employed. The ultimate goal of this suppression strategy is interruption of transmission of the virus. Yesterday, during the daily debriefing, a question was asked. The individual inquired if all the employees working in supermarkets should be tested. The Ministry of Health does not see the need for this. I would also like to explain that an individual can receive a negative result for COVID-19 today, and the individual can still go on to pick up the virus and can be diagnosed with COVID-19 just a few days afterwards. The Ministry of Health's Emergency Operating Center was operationalized on Tuesday, March 24th, 2020, and the team has been working assiduously in guiding the ministry's response to this outbreak. The team is working 7 days per week, and we have a briefing meeting every morning. I want to use the opportunity to acknowledge each member of our HEOC by name. Mr. Sylvester Bell, our operations lead and the health planner within the Ministry of Health. Dr. Marissa Carty, our public relations officer and the NCD coordinator in the Ministry of Health. Dr. Keisha Liddy, our planning lead, and she is the Director of Community Health Services. She is ably supported by Ms. Davida Irish, the Coordinator of Community Nursing Services, Mrs. Sandra Lestrade Keynes, the Deputy Director of Institutional Nursing Services, and Ms. Charisse Wallace, Infection Prevention and Control Nurse at the JNF General Hospital. Ms. Verna Brown is our Logistics Lead. Mr. Alexander Riley, our Environmental Health Officer, the Chief Environmental Health Officer, Dr. Rosales, our epidemiologist, and Ms. Kayla Farrell, our statistician. They are in control of our data. They control data management. Ms. Kishma Cranston and Ms. Gail Cranston, who are our finance and administration leads. Mr. Alistair Thomas, IT lead. Dr. Judy Nisbet, Medical Officer of Health in Nevis. Dr. Retna Walwyn Brown, Deputy Medical Officer of Health in Nevis. I want to use this forum to thank team members for their valuable contributions so far. I want to thank you, the citizens and residents, for your adherence to the lockdown policies, and you are reminded to exercise social distancing and appropriate respiratory hygiene measures. Hashtag stay healthy at home. Daily updates will be shared with the public via the National Information System. However, persons can also visit the official website, www.covid19.gov.kn, for COVID-19 national statistics and other COVID-19 related information. I thank you.
Thank you, CMO Dr. Laws. I now invite Mr. Melvin James, who is the Director in the Department of Agriculture for St. Kitts, to share with us. Mr. James.
Thank you, sir. We have such a tight program. I think I had some introductions myself about Palm Sunday, but I think I should go right into my presentation and welcome all listening and watching to this program at this time. I have a number of things I wish to share. Firstly, I would say, in relation to the Agricultural Open Day, after a splendid 2019 Open Day, which we saw groundbreaking and excellent patronage, we were all looking forward to the 2020 edition. But because of COVID, I have to announce to us at this time that the 2020 Agricultural Open Day, which was scheduled for the 23rd and 24th of this month, April, has to be canceled, regrettably. However, I encourage us to follow on television, where we have AgriScope, on ZIZ Radio around 8:15 on Sunday mornings, and we can also see on television Agriculture in Context on the evenings. There's much confusion about the liberties accorded to farmers and fishers, and I would like to speak to that early because there have been several questions and inquiries. Obviously, on full lockdown days, everyone is expected to stay at home, and it would be an offense if those regulations are broken. However, on the days where we have only night curfew, the fishers, they have the morning where they can go and harvest their fish and come back in. People wonder about the disposal of the fish, but most of these fishers have customers, and in these times they mostly collect just enough for their customers so that there's not usually a problem. As it relates to livestock farmers, the Commissioner of Police has already allowed some leeway in the mornings for the livestock farmers to go and do the basic things of cleaning their pens, watering their animals, and securing them, and for them to return at home. And on the 1st of April, the Honorable Prime Minister accorded similar courtesies to crop farmers. Again, not for us to cultivate any land, not for us to engage in any new activity, but the basics. Basic include things like harvesting, maybe some crop care, and returning to our places of residence. Every day is a different day based on the developments with COVID. And so generally, the offices of the department are closed. But I would like to share some information with us at this time as it relates to this week, Sunday down to Wednesday. Please note that on Wednesday, the abattoir will be open in the morning. Those who slaughtered animals in the week past are free to come and collect their meat, if they so desire, on Wednesday morning. That is the only time the abattoir will be open. It will not be open in the afternoon nor on Thursday. As it relates to the public market, the market will be open on both days. Friday is Good Friday, it's normally a holiday. And but more importantly, we have the tradition of Good Friday, and folks would want to receive the kind of fresh vegetables and produce, so that the market will be open from 6:30 to around 2:30, both Thursday, Wednesday, and Thursday. As it relates to the Department of Agriculture, Again, we understand that our livestock farmers in particular would want to purchase feed. And so we have dedicated Wednesday afternoon, the period from 1 to 4 o'clock, for the sale of livestock feed. There will be no sale activity taking place in the morning, nor on Thursday, but we'll be there Wednesday afternoon. Similarly, we had a betical program where we're treating animals against dermatophilosis, and that had to be suspended because of the curfew. Farmers, however, have a good idea of how to apply the betical. And those farmers who are low on supplies or whose animals need a follow-up treatment, you can come to the department at the same time, meaning from 1 to 4 on Wednesdays, and we will distribute the betical to you. We are dealing with what I would describe as a moving target, and indeed, from the department's point of view, there is need for us to start agricultural production so that we can feed ourselves, but at the same time, we know we want to keep everyone safe. So it's a tricky situation, but initially what we're doing is that we have a number of seedlings available at the department, and we're also collaborating with one of our private nurseries through Mr. Ian Chapman. And we already have several thousand seedlings available, tomato, and some of the cauliflower, cabbage, greens, cucumbers, and we're encouraging the backyard gardeners, the homeowners, that you can get a quantity, you can get a supply that you can plant at home, free of cost, of course, so as to ensure that you can help yourself with your own food security. So on Wednesday, we're going to be at the department in the morning. It's not a business day. Remember we said in the afternoon is where we're doing the selling. But if these homeowners come by, we'll be able to start the distribution of some of these products to them. Let me hasten on and say to us that very shortly we will be engaging our crop farmers as we spoke about the stimulus package in relation to significantly doubling up our production. We have to do that. We cannot wait because obviously the period of restriction seemed it would be extensive and extended, and so we will be seeking ways and means in which we can have the farmers allowed, the crop farmers being allowed to start this package where we're looking at over 100 acres of increased production in the crops that we're going to be planting for our own food security. In this very speedy discussion, I trust that I had touched on your major concerns. I close by reminding us to be safe, to stay isolated as much as possible, knowing fully well sometimes we have to be out to do our farming. But let us follow the best examples of social distancing, whether it's in fishing or in farming, in the market, the abattoir, wherever we go in the agricultural sector, so that we will not cross-contaminate each other. Instead, we'll be safe, and at the same time, we would have commenced our own food production. May God bless us all at this time. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. We recognize in our midst Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, also Attorney General Honorable Vincent Byron, and our Medical Chief of Staff at the Joseph N. France General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson. I now invite Mr. Abdias Samuel, who is Chair of the COVID-19 National Task Force and National Disaster Coordinator at NEMA, to address us.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Greetings to all who have logged on to this broadcast via internet, radio, and television. I want to report to you today that the National Emergency Operations Center continues to function. We have received so far nationally 34 calls via 311. That's the COVID-19 hotline. We have had 33 calls processed for the past 24 hours on St. Kitts and 1 call on Nevis. The National Emergency Operations Center has processed 12 calls, 11 on St. Kitts and 1 on Nevis. Today, we also continue the process of delivering food packages to the most vulnerable communities. We were also notified that the solid waste management will commence operations tomorrow, Monday, to collect garbage. Please be guided. We received a lot of calls of persons being concerned about the collection of garbage, and I'm informed that they will do so, the solid waste will do so tomorrow, Monday. The Quarantine and Compliance Task Force would have carried out 62 visits today for a total of 215 completed compliance visits. Again, we want to appeal to persons to continue to comply with the quarantine and isolation orders. It's very important that you do so. And I also want to thank and acknowledge the hard work of that task force, which is being led by the Comptroller of Customs, Mr. Kennedy De Silva, the Chief Immigration Officer, Ms. Merceline Hughes, and the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ms. Kay Bass. They have been doing an excellent job thus far. We want to continue to remind you to remain indoors. It's important. The police has been appealing to the general public to be compliant and support the continued responsible response that we have been seeing from the general public. I myself and the team are satisfied that the message is getting across. The Chamber of Industry and Commerce reached out this morning to the NEOC and informed that they were satisfied of the response of the security forces and the compliance of the general public on yesterday's date. To that, I must commend you, the general public, and I also commend the security forces for the hard work that they are doing. The misinformation continues. However, I am also appealing to you again, once more, to shun all negativity at this time. We are going through a challenging time, and all that we need today is positive energy. Again, for credible information, I am going to guide you to visit the Health Promotion Unit, NEMA Facebook and website, and also to visit COVID-19 website, which is covid19.gov.kn. Also available to you, toll-free at no cost to you, is the 311 hotline. I also wish to thank all those volunteers. We are seeing locals who are volunteering to be trained to be able to operate the 311 hotline. We welcome every citizen and resident who wish to volunteer and support this cause. Again, I want to thank the men and women who are working tirelessly day and night to support the operations at the National Emergency Operations Center, the Health Emergency Operations Center, and the Emergency Operations Center at the Nevis Disaster Management Department. I also want to acknowledge the Best Buy Supermarket, Rams Group of Companies, and ValueMart for providing the healthcare workers, frontline operators, and every essential worker the opportunity to be able to shop yesterday. I can inform you that they were very happy. Everybody was excited to be able to get that opportunity. And to you, the business community, we say thank you. I also want to thank all the churches who continue to reach out to us and inform us that they are praying for us at this time. Please continue to pray. And thank you once again for tuning in and listening these credible and reliable updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samuel. We'll now have some answers from some questions that the media have submitted. The first one is from Sugar City FM. During our 2 days relief from the 24 hours lockdown during Friday and Saturday, when we were allowed to go out and get essential items, it was observed that a lot of shoppers are not observing the 6 feet apart distance while waiting to go inside the supermarkets. What can be done to enforce this so that it does not cause confusion or discomfort to those that are trying to shop and want to be safe? Also, the mask wearing in public is recommended but not enforced. However, if persons are standing in line and others are talking around them, then can't the mask wearing or mouth covering be enforced? Question number 2. I realize that politicians are giving out care packages in the communities, but they are not observing the 6 feet rule because they are hugging and shaking hands. These persons are and would be vulnerable if they contract the COVID-19 virus. Attorney General.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams, and good afternoon to everyone. The National Emergency Operating Center and the task force that is based here has been in discussion today, as we have been all days for the past week, with the Police High Command, Commissioner of Police, Mr. Hilroy Brandy, and his team visited here. We have been in discussion with members of the Chamber of Commerce, the major retailers, supermarkets, to have discussion with them as to how this issue, this concern can be better managed. And we have been putting together a very detailed plan, which we will perfect over the next 24 hours, and we hope to bring that to you shortly. It will mean having to split up some of the areas or the people who come to do the retail shopping, and they will be staggered to reduce the numbers so that they can be easily managed, and we can then better enforce the social, physical distancing that is required by our health professionals. As regards those who are giving out care packages, we would appeal to good sense, common sense. We believe that if one wants to do so, they should do so through the National Emergency Operating Center. People, all individuals, cannot take it upon themselves to go out in the community to disperse packages. There'll be even greater chaos than what we are hearing now. This is not a time for grandstanding. This is not a time for politicking, if that is the case. But we would demand, and if necessary, enforce that this be done through the National Emergency Operating Center. You can get in touch. There are a number of numbers that are being displayed. You can get in touch with the National Disaster Coordinator, Mr. Abdiel Samuel, and his team at NEMA. You can get in touch with, even through the Health Emergency Operating Center, Dr. Lords and his team, and her team. But for individuals to be taken upon themselves, hopefully not to breach the curfew, because they will be arrested, but to break the very thing that we are trying to do, and that is to have people respect and regard the distancing, to break this cycle, to ensure that we do not pass on any transmission of COVID-19. We appeal to good sense, and we hope that that will be followed, or else we will have to take even stronger actions to ensure that this does not happen. Thank you.
Thank you for those responses, Attorney General. This question is for the CMO. There has been an increase in the number of persons that have gone into government quarantine. Could you explain what that means? Or quarantine in government facilities. Those patients that have been tested positive with the coronavirus here in the Federation, what is their status? Have they gotten worse, or is anyone getting better? And how would you know when they are safe to be released? Would they be retested after a period of time?
The number of persons placed in quarantine can increase daily. And the reason for this is as we interview more contacts of the cases, those individuals will automatically go into quarantine. And so that's the main reason for an increase in the number of individuals placed in quarantine. And as I said earlier in my presentation, of the 10 confirmed cases, 7 are symptom-free and are recovering. 1 has mild symptoms and continue to improve. 2 cases are hospitalized in Nevis, but stable. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Laws. This question is from Freedom FM. Was there any special provision given to any church or place of worship to have service today, April 5th, Palm Sunday? AG?
The regulations require there be no church during a 24-hour lockdown. And most churches, or churches that I have heard, had their services online. Their parishioners, their congregations tuned in either via internet or radio, and they listened and participated with their churches. The churches have been our partners in this, and very early, the Christian Council and the Evangelical Association met with Dr. Laws and Mr. Abdir Samuel, our team here, and they gave their commitment to abide by these regulations, and they have done so. And we want to big them up, as they say colloquially, to thank them for the way they have been responsible in responding to this very serious pandemic that's affecting our country. We would hope that this is Holy Week, obviously, that people will continue to pray for the deliverance of us from this COVID-19. And we find all ways to pray. We get on our knees by ourselves when we get up in the morning, before we go to bed. But we ask you to contact your churches, your pastors, and communicate, as it was virtually, by internet, and listen to your services on the radio. We thank you for your cooperation this way. It's a special abnormal time, but we then have to adapt as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, AG. CMO?
I also wanted to add that the doctors and nurses who came into country from Cuba also constitute the number of persons at the government-assigned facility. They are in quarantine. They are serving their 14-day quarantine. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Laws. This one is from the NEOC phone lines. So concerning the reopening of our borders, in light of what was said yesterday by the Attorney General on this topic, what measures are being taken for nationals who got stuck overseas when the borders were closed to ensure their speedy return home to our federation? Is there any way that the students or any other person who had already purchased their airline tickets could receive a stipend or be able to be placed somewhere until they are able to return home?
Thank you for that question. The Ministry of Education has been working to identify students overseas. And there is a fund in which announcement will be made shortly as to how support can be given to those students who need it. The Honorable Prime Minister, at the very early, one of his first addresses to the nation, indicated that there are foreign missions overseas, in Taiwan, in Washington, D.C., in New York, in London, and in Brussels, as well as in Dubai and North Africa, in Morocco, where citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis can contact our diplomats overseas for assistance. We ask you to stay in place, to be safe, and if there is any difficulty, to get in touch with our diplomats. You obviously cannot return home at this point in time because there are no planes flying, definitely not to St. Kitts and Nevis. But everything will be done to ensure that you are not destitute, and if necessary, we will get in touch with you. Thank you.
Thank you, AG. This question is for Dr. Wilkinson. How is the risk of COVID-19 transmission being handled for situations of necessary surgery? And this one is for the Comptroller of Customs. Individuals who are quarantined, how do we know they have not been out yesterday and Friday to shop?
Good evening, everyone. We take the health of our healthcare workers very seriously. And one of the things that we did very early was to put a hold on all elective surgery. In other words, non-emergent surgery. And the only surgeries that we are doing are emergency surgeries. Also, in terms of the procedures that are being done, if there are any aerosol generating procedures, that is procedures that will cause airborne particles to be transmitted in water vapor, those procedures we take particular attention to. And the greatest risk is to the anesthesiologist, and we have protocols and procedures in place so that the anesthesiologist can be properly protected, and also everyone who would be in the operating theater at the time. Thank you.
If I may paraphrase the question that was asked, essentially, how do we know whether or not persons are, by and large, complying with the compliance measures? The simple answer is you would not know if all at any given specific time would be compliant. The most we can do is rely on one, intelligence, and the community reporting that fact, and two, and the actual patrol team going out and verifying that in fact those people were where they were supposed to be, at least at the time when they did the compliance check. So this is an effort that if you are aware of someone is in violation of the compliance measures, then I would advise you to also call 311 and relay that information, time and date, and all the relevant information that could assist us in verifying whether or not these people are in compliance.
Thank you, Mr. De Silva. This is from the NEOC phone lines. When will agriculture open up for persons to purchase slips? Mr. James.
Thank you. Thanks for the inquiry. We have a program of looking at two tiers, the large farmer and the backyard gardener. Presently, we have a number of seedlings, tomato, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, seasonings, like, herbs and that kind of thing, which we are giving free to the backyard gardener. Wednesday in the afternoon, we'll be at the department selling livestock feed. And that is a good time for any backyard or home garden person to come and collect a number of seedlings as it relates to this space they can have at their home or in the community garden. You may be also able to get some in the morning. We will not be open to the public, but we'll be there actually sowing more seeds. And we don't mind taking a little time off and assisting you. You can get them from the department itself, or you can also get them from a nearby facility run by Mr. Ian Chapman. And I'm going to give you his number. I'm going to give you his number shortly. And of course, you can contact the department, or you can call me directly, 663-7354. I'll give you Mr. Chapman's number shortly. As it relates to large-scale production, we have been funded by the stimulus package from the government, and it is our intention to roll out our program. We have already outlined to the farmers that in the worst case scenario, we will have to cultivate 135 acres every month. But right now, we are looking at doubling the output from our regular farmers. However, that for now is somewhat on hold because of the emergency measures. Not all farmers agree with it, and farmers are asking, when are we going to roll it out? For now, today as I speak, it's on hold. The dynamics are changing fast. Next time I come, it may not be like this. But for now, we understand the gravity of the situation, and we are being guided by the health officials. I but give you the number for Mr. Chapman, 762-2304. Homeowners, backyard gardeners, seedlings are readily available at this time. 762-2340, or my number, 663-7354. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. This question is from Freedom FM to the AG. Regarding what AG Byron has said, Antioch Baptist Church had service today that was live streamed from their Facebook page and carried on ZIZ, where the pastor along with the worship leader and the band were in their church building. What course of action will be brought against them?
Clearly, if there has been a violation, the Commissioner of Police will take appropriate action, whether it is to warn them and desist, or if they will ultimately be charged for that violation. But that is something that will be discussed among those responsible, the Commissioner of Police, and if necessary, the Director of Public Prosecutions. We appeal to everybody, to adhere to the regulations. This is a very serious time. We would not want to have the scenes that we see on the internet and on the television coming out of Italy, and even the United States of America, where many of us have friends and relatives who have begun to succumb to this virus. And we appeal to all to adhere to the regulations. We have tried to have a proper balance between allowing a strict close down and everybody to stay in their homes, policed by the police, and also to have a limited restriction for people to get the necessities of life. If you need medicine or food and you have to get money to get them, you are supposed to come out on designated days. And other days, you are asked to remain in your home, to stay at home. Only those who perform essential services are given a pass by the Commissioner of Police. Everything else, we believe you should be able to do on the internet, at home, to practice safe physical distancing, safe social distancing, and we encourage everyone to do so.
Thank you, Attorney General. ZIZ has informed that the recording for the church was done yesterday, and it was not live. It was carried today. We don't know who are quarantined at home, so it's difficult to report our neighbors. This question. We don't know who is quarantined at home, so it's difficult to report in terms of neighborhoods and so on who are quarantined. What's the situation with utility bill payments? Will Skelec, Flow, and the Water Department be open on Wednesday or Thursday for bill payments?
During this period, until further notice, unless you're an essential business, you're closed to the general public. If you can pay online, that's great. But if it is that you have to go to certain businesses to pay bills, until further notice, that will be suspended. We hope that we can get those businesses, those institutions that will normally assess a fee or interest payments to defer those in the interest of the crisis that we now have. In terms of utilities, Skelec, water, telecoms, those have essential services. If your electricity goes down, a technician can be called to come to your home to assist. Similarly with water, as well as the telecoms. So those are essential services. Clearly, the security services are essential. And those on the front line, the nurses and doctors. Other businesses at this point in time are not essential, they are not necessary for day-to-day living, for basic living, and we ask that those not be open at this point in time. Those are the regulations that have been promulgated, and we review them as we go along until the next set will be introduced. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. We'll have these last three questions. How is the stimulus package coming along to assist all persons affected, whether laid off or their hours cut, self-employed who paid their contribution or not? The country cannot find masks. Is the government doing anything to assist the community to get free masks or to buy? AG.
In terms of masks, I recall that yesterday or day before, Minister of State in Health, Minister Wendy Phipps, indicated that there are local producers who are making masks, face masks. St. Helens Close has been given, I believe, a special dispensation to allow a limited staff to help to produce those. And they're on sale. There are other establishments, people who have been innovative. You can wear a handkerchief around your nose and mouth. You can put a scarf around your face. The idea being that if you, God forbid, are a carrier of the virus, that you do not have droplets escape from within you that can affect those around you. It helps you, in some measure, to decrease or increase the possibility of you defending against droplets if they are in the environment in which you are in. Dr. Laws and the team have reminded us time and time again to be very, very careful about touching our faces, our nose, our mouth, our eyes, to wash our hands regularly, to, as it was, reduce the possibility of anyone contracted this virus. And we continue to appeal like that. But if masks are not available, you can be innovative. You can use a cloth mask and tie it around your nose and mouth if you have to come out of your house. We don't expect you to have to come out every day, only in urgent times to go to the doctor, the hospital, or if they're in urgent need to replenish your food stock. Otherwise that you should remain at home. You should stay at home and reduce the incidence of spread and the need to wear a mask. Thank you.
Thank you, AG. These last questions. Why is the lockdown not a complete 14-day continuous duration? The seemingly COVID-19 incubation period. And is the Treasury going to be open so that people could get their funds? These are our last two questions.
As regards the complete lockdown for the incubation period, 14 days, ideally, that can break the spread, we believe. But people have to live. And there are some in our society that do not have the wherewithal to be without food for 14 days. They may not have refrigeration at home. There are some who have been accustomed to purchase food daily. And having to spread to 3 to 4 day lockdowns is in itself a difficult period for some. We encourage those who have already stocked up to do with what you have. But there are those who need to purchase food from time to time within a 14-day period. It is a balance. and the health professionals are just as concerned for those who need to have that top-up in terms of food as it is to break the cycle. We have to do our best to try to break the transmission, but people must be able still to have the basic necessities of life. It may well be that at some point we have to take what is considered such a draconian type of action, but the advice we have received and which we have implemented at this point does not require a complete 14-day lockdown. Thank you.
Thank you, AG. That brings us to the end of our question and answer period. I would now invite the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, to give a few remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Good afternoon to all who are listening. I just want very briefly to say that when the book is written about the success of St. Kitts and Nevis in fighting COVID-19, several chapters will be reserved for our outstanding sons and daughters who gave of their time and even exposed themselves to ensure that the victory is won. And so on behalf of all of us of St. Kitts and Nevis, I just want to thank the membership of the NEOC and the HEOC and all the others who are working so hard to ensure that we flatten the curve as quickly as possible so that life can be returned to normalcy. Everywhere where the COVID-19 has gone, it has left death in its path, and it has destabilized the ordinary functioning of every society. It has been so for the most powerful country on earth, United States of America. It has been so for the most populous country on earth, the Republic of China. And it has been so in every region of the world. The COVID-19 really is a very serious pandemic, and every citizen and resident is being asked again to treat it that way. Treat it seriously, because the life that you may save may be yours. It may be your child. It may be your neighbor. It may be your grandmother. And it may, in fact, be some unknown person. The health ministry has been at the forefront. And in this regard, I want to commend the leadership of the Minister with responsibility for health, Senator Wendy Phipps, the High Command in the administrative realm of the ministry, Permanent Secretary, Dolores Stapleton Harris, and all the rest of the support staff, and the cadre of medical practitioners, some of whom are here, like our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, and our Medical Chief of Staff, Dr. Cameron Wilkerson, and we have here also Dr. Crawford. I want to thank them all. They have brought enthusiasm to a difficult task. And when we would have redeemed the time, their name would be among those of our citizens and residents who did all in their power to help St. Kitts and Nevis shine as we must shine after the COVID-19. I want to commend the Cabinet, because the Cabinet has been very supportive of the recommendations that have come from the professional persons in whom we have reposed our confidence. Mr. Abdia Samuel, as head of the NEOC, our CMO, and her colleagues in health, they have all had the fullest support from my cabinet and from the wider community. I want to thank all the critical stakeholders. Yesterday on Win FM, I was able to thank some 20+ entities that had come forward and made various forms of contribution to the effort to overcome this COVID pandemic. And I thank them again and hope that others would join them in giving tangible support. I believe the fulsome support that we have had for many is an indication of their confidence in the NEOC, in the HEOC, and a confidence in the government's leadership of this matter. In this regard, allow me to acknowledge the Honorable Attorney General, who too has brought outstanding enthusiasm and commitment to this fight. I want equally to commend the members of the legal department who time and time again have had to prepare the necessary legislative instrument to give force to the emergency powers that we have had to enact to get the country on even keel. The government will review the situation as new knowledge and experience come to the fore. All of us are learning as we go. What we have had has been the benefit of having kept the pandemic from our shores for as long as we did, to be able to see what was working and what wasn't working, and to see how the knowledge and experience was evolving. The knowledge is still in gestation, in a manner of speaking, because as you listen to the experts around the world, they all tell you there's a lot that they are learning. We have not yet had a vaccine. That in itself is an indication of where the body of science is on this particular matter. So we learn as we go. And clearly the preferred response is that for an informed people to take advice and to respond voluntarily to it. If everyone determined that they will observe social distance and physical distancing, there is no need to impose that by regulation. If every one of us was careful enough to understand that overcrowding our supermarkets put ourselves at risk, there will be no need for the security forces to, as it were, be around, spending time on that matter, which will be clear for all. If each of us take the matter, if each of us were to take the matter seriously, then those of us in St. Paul's will not journey to Bastille to buy groceries that are available in any shop in St. Paul, Hutchinson's, for example, and there are several others. Equally, those of us in Old Road and Tabernacle and so on will not come to town just for the sake of going grocery shopping. We are fortunate that in every community almost, a small community as Christchurch has a shop. The advice will be to buy and support your community retailers and lessen the traffic in Bastia. Avoid crowd at all costs, and I think if you can do that, part of the battle would be won. The good thing, if there is such, but the encouraging thing about the fight against COVID-19 is that the power lies in you and the power lies in me at the individual level to do certain simple things that can save our lives, that can protect us from coming down, that can protect the elderly and the vulnerable groups. And the vulnerable groups, while we started with the understanding it was just the extremely old, we are seeing also that very young people are now part of the vulnerable group. In fact, all of us are part of the vulnerable group. So each one of us can do something. Wash our hands regularly and properly. Boost our immune system. Undertake social distancing. Wear the mask as often as you can. These are things that a disciplined people must do every time. And I appreciate that we are all creatures of habit, and habit takes time to form. And therefore, yes, there will be out there when you touch your face and then you catch yourself, you say, I shouldn't. And each time you remember that you shouldn't is a good sign, because it means instinctively you will not do that tomorrow or as often. So we understand it is a work, and what we really want to see is people trying. So if you go by Best Buy and Best Buy is crowded, forget that. Move it line, go back home. You won't die. Go back home. Go in your communities. Lessen the crowd. Masks are scarce items everywhere. In the most powerful country, they are scarce. In countries like Taiwan and elsewhere, they have ultimately banned the export of these things because they have prioritized their citizens and residents first. All over the world, people then have become creative about masks. In their homes, in workplaces in India, we are told that they have carved out certain spots and allow workers to be there making their masks. St. Kitts and Nevis is no exception. We have encouraged an island close, which has been one of the longest entities in the manufacturing sector, providing linen and pillows, among other things, to get itself involved in the production of these. And we are aware that they have done for several workplaces. They are adding to their stock every day, and we commend them. And we ask them to look at the price, because the price is important in terms of accessibility. But we have other young entrepreneurs, like a Lynette Bonaparte at New Road Housing, who is producing and selling at the very affordable price of $3 per child and $5 per adult. That is a giveaway price, and I want to commend her and her family for doing this as part of their contribution to the fight against COVID. I gather there's another young lady at Baker's Corner who is also engaged in the production of this. So we have about 4 persons who are doing this as a business, and we encourage all the seamstresses and tailors everywhere to do. But even without purchasing, you have heard any article that you can use to help cover your nose, your mouth. It would put you in a better position than if you didn't do it at all. So if it's the handkerchief, the bandana, or whatever else you may find, please use it. Again, the power lies in you. And I want us as a people not to be always be waiting for someone to do for us what we must do and can do for ourselves. This notion that always the government must give us that which we ought to create and provide for ourselves will not help us win the war. In war as we now are against the COVID-19, it calls for the best to shine in every citizen and every resident. And we have to be resourceful. We have to be resourceful. Resourceful in our creation of the mass. Resourceful in what we are going to eat. Resourceful in the sacrifice that we are prepared to take. Because no war anywhere has ever been won without the people being prepared to take sacrifice. And the sooner we recognize this, the sooner we will win the war. The sooner we recognize that these are turbulent times and different times, the sooner we appreciate that we have to make changes and make them promptly. The world is not going to stand idle while waiting for Kittitians and Nifisians to do the right thing. You have seen it. You have seen what is happening everywhere. You have enough information. Every day you will get a briefing from the NEOC, and I want to thank Mr. Samuel and his team and everyone that is providing you information. But you can't go to CNN, and you can't go to Fox, and you can't go to Euronews without learning and hearing the debate about the battle that every country is waging now in relation to this. In the United States of America, it is war powers that the president is invoking to ensure that production is directed to provide the things that America needs to overcome. And whether it is masks or it is ventilators, they have their challenges. I was very satisfied Saturday when the Permanent Secretary indicated that small St. Kitts and Nevis is ready to face this challenge. Of course, we would hope that it would not come to a situation that we will have the worst cases ever come. But if the worst were to come, we are in a relatively good spot, thanks to the work of the NEOC and the HEOC and the enthusiastic staff of healthcare workers everywhere to be able to fight this. What I would wish is that we do those things that are within our power to do. Stay at home. Stay at home. And we want everyone in leadership, church leader, business leader, government leader, party leader, to say these simple messages over and over. Even Mr. James must say them to the farmers and fishers, stay at home for this period. Because the more persons are asking for exceptions in time, it is as if it is the ordinary way and the ordinary way in which we are operating. We have to make the adjustments. And if you can't get it done in the time allowed, stay at home, stay at home, stay at home. Stay at home. Because in staying at home, you are protecting yourself, your neighbor, and indeed you are protecting all of us. Please, I make the appeal to those who want to call Mr. Brandy. I want Mr. Brandy to be focused on strategies to help us with all the other issues that have come to the fore as we deal with this. Not to be dealing with exceptions. Work within the rule. Work within the rules as they are laid out. The exceptions will be fewer, because the more we give, we are losing time, and time is not on our side. I want us to be the first country to break the cycle, to be back on our feet again. And so I'm asking, for 14 days in the first instance, we may have to go longer, because if you are not disciplined at the supermarket, in the banks, wherever, discipline at home, then we are going to have this going longer. It's all in your hands. We want you to act responsibly, and we want you to let that common sense guide your action. It is serious business, serious times, and I want at the end of the day, the best behavior is what history would remember and associate with the people of St. Kitts and Nevis in this time of challenge. Thank you very much.
Okay, I have no need to give a thank you, since the Prime Minister has thanked almost everyone. We thank him, of course, for his strong leadership at this very challenging time for all of us. I would also like to thank the media houses, all persons who are involved in the dissemination of information on COVID-19 and trying to help us to stay informed in terms of what is happening, and to discourage those persons who are out there spreading a lot of misinformation on social media, which is really not helpful, very, very unpatriotic, and goes against all common sense. I want to remind you of a few numbers that are important for the National Emergency Operating Center in St. Kitts. You can take note of them. 466-3874, 466-7453, 466-9626, 466-5100. These are the numbers for St. Kitts. And for Nevis, they are 469-1423, 469-1922, 469-0351, and 469-4030. Additionally, remember that we have an official website that you can go to. It's covid19.gov.kn. Thank you very much for listening and watching today's National Emergency Operations Center COVID-19 Daily Briefing. We will be back with you tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another briefing. Thank you very much.